He is one busybody. He goes by the adage of work hard, play hard. It is Fox's Jason McIntyre. You can hear his show on Saturdays, Fox Sports Radio, 7 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. You also see him on FS1. He is a betting analyst expert for Fox Sports. His work is all over foxsports.com, other properties as well, formerly of The Big Lead. I'm Bryan Fenley, an anchor with Fox Sports Radio, and this is going to be an opportunity to spotlight Jason and what he is doing with his career and what makes him inspirational. Often the notion, Jason, of you work hard and play hard, and that's sort of what you've been going by. I was going through your Instagram and I saw this picture of you in a toga from your college days. What was Jason McIntyre like at that toga party?
Oh man, probably debauchery. I don't remember much of it because that was college. But I was just going to say that introduction, probably one of the top 5 introductions I've ever had. Goodness, it was so clean. It's like, why are you an anchor? Why don't you get your own show on Fox? I mean, geez, Bryan, that was super clean. Those are better than my what do they call them? The reads that you got to do right before you go to commercial to lure the listener to keep it locked before changing the channel. Like that's what that was. That's how I read that as your intro.
Well, Jason, as you continue to grow and get bigger, when you are one to start a podcast channel, I'd be happy to help you out. Like when you become, this big controller of the media conglomerate of podcasting, I might be around to help you. I'd love that.
Okay, yeah, I'll be the next. I'll do a cowherd volume type.
There you go.
Yeah.
So where did you get the Montreal Expos hat? Because I saw that.
Wow. So it's so funny that, I got young kids and I would drop them at elementary school. And, back in the day when we were growing up, it was like not a scene at the elementary school in the morning. And, like out here in LA, everybody's like dressed up, going to work or whatever. And I just like baseball hats growing up. I would just get a lot of different hats and I would rotate them. And I noticed when I came out here, like I had some good hats, but I needed to kind of diversify and add to the repertoire. And one day my wife came home from drop off and was like, this dad came up and was like, oh yeah, you're Jason's wife. He's always wearing cool hats. And I instantly went online. I was like, damn, all right, I got to find something new. I got to add. So I went out and got a Padres throwback hat. And then I added the Montreal Expos just because like, you're not going to see a lot of people walking around with the Montreal Expos hat, So I've always tried to diversify, whether it's clothes, takes, sports opinions, and just kind of catch people off guard with new stuff. So Montreal Expos, I was barely a sports fan. I think they had like Larry Walker, Delino DeShields. I don't know. I think Randy Johnson started his career with the Expos, maybe. But yeah, like it was just an obscure hat. I'm not like an Expos fan or anything.
It definitely caught my eye. And as far as diversifying yourself in sports media, I saw this quote that you put up. And he said, the thing that got you here won't get you where you are going. You've got to evolve many times. How have you evolved in your career as it's been beneficial to your development and growth?
So I got to a newspaper back when people, worked at newspapers and read them. Because I went to college to study, journalism and sports media. And I get to a newspaper and instantly the internet's starting to pop. And I'm like, all right, well, what can I do? So I bought the URL jasonmcintyre.com and I started to promote my stuff. And of course, this is early internet, like 2001 maybe. And somebody in the staff saw it and was like, what's Jason doing? How is he allowed to do this? He's putting stories up there. I'm like, yeah, it's like a placeholder. I promote my work. It's going to help me get freelance gigs. I'm right outside New York City. And like nobody was doing that back then. So I did that. So then down the road, 5 years later, 6 years later, start a sports blog. There weren't a lot out there. I had journalism, but everything got me to journalism wasn't going to get me to the next step. So I had to learn about some coding and websites. And the next step was social media. And you've got to continually be evolving. And like, I get to FS1 2016 and, you look around and there's 50 shows on all the networks, sports guys talk like, why don't we do gambling? And so the first segment I had at FS1 was good bet, bad bet for gambling. And nobody was doing sports gambling on TV back then. We were early. And then again, so I get to FS1 because people thought the blog was interesting, entrepreneurial. Boom. Let me go to the next level and do the gambling. And then once I got to FS1, it was like, all right, well, this is good. This is fun. What else can I do? How else? Oh, let me dip back into the website. That's why I started working at Fox Digital, kind of trying to be a five-tool player, if you will. And I just feel like you've got to keep evolving to go to the next step and the next step. There's never like a finished product, right? You're not like, oh, I got to FS1, I'm on TV, great. You're not done. Like, that's just opening the door to what's next. And there's always got to be something. And then, last year added the podcast, to iHeartRadio. And you just got to constantly be evolving and adding and growing. And because otherwise, like, if you're just standing there and you're not making forward progress, it just kind of feels stagnant. And, I'm one of these competitive guys. If you're stagnant, you're going to get bypassed by a lot of folks and left behind because there's a new crop of people coming for your jobs every single year.
So how do you not be stagnant, but also appreciate what you've done so far while also not being complacent at the same time?
It's funny. That's a tough one because, my
Yeah.
wife was always saying, well, hey, you did a good job on that. I'm like, yeah, well, that's done. That's in the past. That's yesterday. What's tomorrow? And I'm always constantly looking forward. And I'm one of these nerdy guys who had a one of those, I have like manila folders in my office, that, keep all our tax stuff and bills. And I had a folder that was labeled planning for the future. And I like had future ideas like, all right, what's next? And where can we invest? And what can we do sports wise to be different than everybody? And I'm not a guy that rests on his laurels, I play pickup basketball all the time. And it's like, oh, I come home, I tell my kids, oh, I had this great, I've been working on that dribble and then I did it in fast break and hit a three. And people are like, ooh, I'm like, okay, that's great. What can I do? How can I level up? And I know that sounds like you're in the rat race and always chasing it, but trust me, I am, having a lot of fun or trying to.
What I think defines you, Jason, is you've been so successful in being that forward thinker where you've seen things you thought would happen before they happen because you had the wit about you to see that what you could do would be sort of ahead of its game. And I think that's what makes you so successful and has made and helped you find that niche in sports media. Jason McIntyre is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. What's different, Jason, about your personality as a basketball coach to one of your kids as opposed to the one we see on FS1?
Well, actually, both the kids. I'm way nerdy and into it. But yeah, I don't really. I know this is going to sound great. I don't think there's that much difference. I'm pretty authentic. I think authenticity kind of rules the day, and the people can see that in that I'm passionate. I played in the soccer tournament last weekend. I'm into it. Like I play pickup basketball, whether it's sports gambling, talking about my New York Jets. Like I'm just gonna. I know it's gonna sound cheesy. Like keep it real. Like if you're authentic, I think people will buy into it. Now there are a lot of phonies out there in our industry. I'm sure many of them. You can see you meet them and you're like, huh, that's not the guy I read on social media. I don't think that's the same guy I see on TV or you're on the radio. Like, and you're just like, oh wow, okay. Hey, and that works for a lot of people. That's fine. For me, I've found just being authentic and listen, this is what I believe. And hey, I think Luka Doncic is the best player in the NBA. I can back it up with this, that, and the other. I'm not going to come out here and say this and really believe something else. I just try authenticity and it's kind of gotten me where I am.
No doubt. And as far as you giving out your takes and your points, what is bound to happen is pushback because not everybody is going to agree with your takes. So how do you deal with that? Because the bigger you've become, the more critics that you will have just because of how big of a public fixture you are. So how do you deal with the pushback that comes with your elevated position when you give a point that not everybody agrees on?
Yeah, I usually tune it out. My wife says that I'm really good at tuning stuff out, probably to a fault. But I'm not Bryan. I don't understand why some of these guys deal with the crap they take on social media. I will just block away. And it's funny because on the Saturday radio show, we were talking about, somebody who's blocked a lot of people. And I was like, I looked at my blocked and I think I blocked like 2,200 people. And they were like, whoa, that's a lot of people. I was like, not really. Listen, man, when I wake up, and you go through your morning ritual or whatever, and then you open social media. I don't need to see you're an effing idiot, you're a moron, you don't know anything, and your is spelt wrong on like all those occasions. Yes. I don't need that. You're not adding anything to the equation. Now, there's a lot of people I have good dialogues with, and you want to discuss why I think Luka's better than Kawhi right now. Sure, we can do that. But I don't have time to handle the idiocy and the lunacy on social media. I do like a good sports debate, as you could tell. And I'll never forget, I went on, it was early on in Speak for Yourself, and I was at the desk across from Plaxico Burress. And again, the authenticity and I'm tuning out the outside. I just said to him, like, listen, Odell Beckham is the greatest receiver Eli Manning's ever had. And somebody there was like, this guy caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. I'm like, there's no disrespect to Plaxico. He's immensely talented. And he kind of looked like, I mean, Odell Beckham's better than Plaxico Burress. There's no debate there. There's no discussion. Like, that's obvious. Like, Plaxico Burress had a good run, good career, no doubt. But like, I'm just going to say, and a lot of people, of course, Giants fans are like, whoa, Odell's only done this for 2 years or whatever it was. It's like, guys, like, I'm sorry, that's the reality. And like, I started this hashtag sometimes, like, just the facts. We can, you guys can bash LeBron all you want endlessly. Oh, he said he was going to win 7 championships with the Mavericks, or with the Heat. Then he lost to the Mavericks and only won 2. And it's like, okay, that was like 9 years ago. Okay. What has he done since then? And like, you can have a good discussion, but a lot of these people who just want to yell and say, oh, you're an idiot. Like, I don't have time for that. I will engage and have a good sports discussion with anybody. But the reality is, I'm sure you know this, Bryan, people will act one way on social media, and then you see them in public. And I'll be honest, I've never out here in LA run into anybody who was like, you said some dumb shit on TV, on the radio, on your pod. You're an idiot, man. Nobody's ever
Nobody.
Nobody. Now, people have had like, man, you really think KD's better than LeBron? Because I was at a basketball pick up basketball like 3 years ago after I said KD had passed LeBron when he was with the Warriors. And this guy who I play with a lot, we're buddies. This guy was like a high school star out here, and he's like, "Come on, Jay, he's not better than LeBron." I was like, "Listen, man, are you watching these fourth quarters? I know he's got the better team, but KD's unstoppable. LeBron can't stop him in the fourth. He's going to win the Finals MVP. He wins it 2 years in a row. Like, he's better now. It's not a knock. But again, like, I will definitely have civil discussions. We can have one right now. You want to talk whatever you want to talk about? I'm game. But like, it's the idiots who want to just come in with the F-bombs and the constant urinate. Like, if you're not going to bring anything to the table, someone smart said to me that social media is like a dinner party, and your feed is the dinner party, right? And I'll invite anybody in, but you're going to say some dumbass shit in my house. Bye. You're gone. See ya. We don't need you in here. There's really no, by the way, can I say bad words?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, you go to a dinner party at somebody's house and you start cursing the person in his house. Are you going to last long? Like, probably not. So at any rate, that's,
No, what I see from you, Jason, is you are the total opposite of Baker Mayfield, because he's obsessed with everything that is said to him. And I feel like while you can use that as a source of motivation, I think when you overdo it, it becomes toxic. And for your own mental health, blatant name calling, what good is that going to do just to have that reading through your Twitter feed? There's no point in that. And when you think about all of the takes that you've had and all the work you've done in this business, I think one of the things that's underappreciated about you is your ability to break news. Where do you see yourself in the news breaking realm? Because there have been stories that you've beaten other people at throughout your career.
Yeah, it's weird. So when I was at the big lead, we quickly became like a disruptor. Before disruptor was like a cool word now in like the last 5 or 6 years. And Deadspin was doing some damage as well. And, they had the Manti Te'o story and some others. And, we had some big hits. And again, this was like 15 years ago, but when I was at the site, it felt like, hey, if we can break news, let's try. But now there's really, the news has become so commodified on social media. Jay Glazer pops some news that X is signing with Y, and he has the scoop for all of 10 seconds. And then it's on every blog and everybody's talking, so there's really not a ton of value in news. Now, if you want to go back to, I think it was last year, might've been 2 years. No, it was last year. there was an incident with the New York Giants, and their head coach got into it with another coach on the staff, and he was let go. And sometimes, listen, the media, once you get to the news breaking level on covering a team, you have to protect your relationships.
Yes.
So, hey, this happened, but don't report that. We'll give you this later. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Anybody who's a reporter would agree that that is 100% how things work sometimes. Like it just is. And I said, well, I got a source telling me this is how it went down. And of course, Ian Rappaport at the time says, I think he just wrote like, yup, or agree, or same, or whatever it was. But then 50 million Giants reporters are just like, that's wrong. McIntrye has no idea. He lives in California. What does he know? I was like, all right, listen, I got a source who told me exactly what went down. And the funniest part was, after it happened, this radio knucklehead, Craig Carton, guy who went to jail. I'm sure you know who he is.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He starts DMing me, or what, I don't know if he had my text or email or whatever. And he's like, hey man, you got to come on the show, and I'm like, no, why would I go on? What am I doing going on your show? It's like, we want to hear your side of the story. I was like, I told my side of the story. I have my own podcast. What am I doing going on your show? And all these people took it as, oh, you don't want to face the music. I'm like, there's no music to face. I'm not a newsbreaker. This is what happened. This is what I heard recently. Julio Jones was with the Falcons, said he wanted out. I made a couple calls. And again, I'm not Schefter. I'm not Woj. I don't want to do that. Like that's just not. But when you go on TV and you're out there, you do your podcast, you bring on guests, I go to games, you try to make some sources. And instantly I asked somebody who knows Julio well, and they were like, Titans or Rams. And nobody else in the media was saying Titans. Everybody said Patriots, all Patriots, there. And I put out the Titans. I gave it out on Straight Fire. And all these people were like, Titans? That doesn't make any sense. Well, 2 weeks later, Julio ends up with the Titans. And again, this isn't to brag, and I'm sure some people are rolling their eyes, and that's fine. Bryan, I'm not competitive with news. This is what I've heard. And again, I learned, I got a lot of this from Cowherd, because I didn't grow up like a radio guy, and Cowherd will hear stuff based on the relationships. He puts it out there. Some ends up happening, others don't, but that's pretty much the news industry anyway, is it not?
Yeah, and another thing that you got right was with Kyle Trask, and you said that Bruce Arians had his eye on Trask, and then what do you know? Trask joins Bruce Arians, so there you have it again. What has Colin Cowherd done for you? Because I know that your relationship has changed over the years, and in a very positive way now. And what has he done for you? A nice gesture to help you in your career, as someone who has you on his show. I listen to you guys on Fridays and beyond, but as someone who really cares about you, Jason, and looks out for you.
Yeah, it's one thing to just like make it and dominate and crush ratings and TV and everything that Cowherd's done. It's another to help others. And, I did learn that from him early on, that, hey man, you're only as good as the other people you help out. Like, you got one life out there, help people out. And I tried to do that at the big lead. Worldwide Wob, who's like an NBA guy now on Twitter. We had him working at the site. Ryan Glass-Steagall, Bobby Burak, Vic Chotsky. We had so many young guys I wanted to just help out, bring on. And when I ended things with the big lead, when we could talk about that if you want, but when that was done, first thing I said was, I got to help my guys land on their feet. I mean, I knew I was going to be fine. And helping out young guys is something Cowherd's been big on. Me, Nick Wright, Gottlieb's not exactly young, haha, Doug. But he's been instrumental in helping out a lot of people. And that's, that's really what this is about, helping others. You just want to be a good person, and that stuff. I mean, I don't know where you are on karma, but ultimately, I do think that comes back, and it goes both ways. You're a jerk and a major league asshole to everybody. Hey, man, eventually it's coming back, and I have worked with those kind of people too.
Speaking of the big lead, you were working out of was it your basement in Brooklyn when you were putting this together? Or
I wish we could have afforded a house with a basement in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Goodness, me and the wife had like a 900 square foot. We were dating and then engaged, but like a 900 square foot apartment in Brooklyn. I would wake up we had an office, bedroom, and then a common area. And I would wake up at like 5:55 a.m. and, you know, brush my teeth, wash my face, and then time it so Howard Stern would come on. This was when he was on the radio, and I would start blogging, getting posts ready, and then I would go to my day job. But yeah, like it was fun. It was awesome. You know, being in Brooklyn, and then we moved out to the burbs. You know, didn't really want to raise kids in New York City, just get more space. You able to get a pool in the backyard. I had sold the website at that point, so you know, I'll be closer to the wife's parents for free babysitting. And yeah, you know, the site was great. It was an awesome run. You know, I don't know that a ton of people talk about this, but you know, sports media industry overwhelmingly is white. And I don't know, Brian, I would challenge you to find out how many sports websites have been sold by guys who were not white in the last 15 years, or even run. You know, a lot of these sports editors are all, you know, white guys, and that's not a knock. That's just the reality. They're just, I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying that's like, I'm one of a very select few that are in this industry. Like, you know, people look at me and still to this point, they're like, so McIntyre, you're not Irish, right? And then my middle name is, you know, Jason Raj McIntyre. They're like, Indian? Are you black? Are you Portuguese, Spanish, Mexican? It's like, people still don't know, I mean, know what I am. I got the 23andMe, you know, I've done all that. And like, you know, my family obviously is from the Caribbean. But yeah, I mean, like, there just haven't been a ton of guys in the blog space, and there aren't a ton of guys doing what I do on TV. Like, you know, Sedano was a radio guy. He's over at ESPN. But most of the other people worked, or sorry, not worked in the league, were in the league. You know, athletes talking about it. Cowherd's one, Nick Wright's one. There's just not, like, Dan Levitard was a former journalist. There's just not a lot of guys like me out there who made the leap from blog world to TV, radio, pod, and all that.
Yeah, so you created your own identity, and in a way, Jason, you are a trailblazer. How did Fox, what was it like the first time they contacted you?
Probably shouldn't reveal the full
Oh,
conversation.
okay. I don't want anybody to
He
get in
had some
trouble.
very funny quotes the first time. He's like, yeah, hey, you know, I had met with Jamie Horowitz way back in New York when Cowherd was filling in for Keith Olbermann on his show, and I like watched the show. We hung out, and they were saying they're building something interesting. They want me to, you know, check it out, and maybe I could transition. Would I move to LA? One of the good pieces of advice that I got, I won't say who I got it from, but he was like, listen, you're going to LA to do TV. You're basically getting dropped in a forest, okay? And there's no path anywhere. But then you find a path. You can follow that path, which was created by other people, right? They started that path. Or you can just forge your own. And I think to realize your full potential, you kind of have to make your own path. And, you know, we've been out here 5 years and I don't know, 2 weeks. And that's what I'm trying to do. You know, it's been a awesome ride, and you know, I'm enjoying it. There's been some bumps, as there are in life, but you can't look back. You got to look forward, and I'm loving it. FS1's been great to me. Fox Sports Radio's been great. iHeart. I mean, it's all been an awesome run so far.
I got one more question for you. Jason McIntyre is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. Speaking of FS1, when you get the opportunity to fill in with Undisputed, what's it like preparing for that show?
First of all, I just was texting yesterday with one of the lead producers, chomping at the bit, champing, whatever. When's the next film? What do you got on the calendar? And you know, just looking at dates. So I'm very excited that there is one coming up. I will say, the first time I did it, I was super nervous. Like 2 days leading in, I'm like hardcore research. It's gotten a little not easier, but different. Now there is a workflow where, you know, if we're doing a Monday, Sunday morning, I'm up early. I'll go for like a run or play volleyball or whatever. And I'm back and I'm at the computer, and that's when I'm starting to look at what the stories could be. And then the producers, like late afternoon, will send out their ideas. And then it's back in the shop. Wow. Chopping it up, like, you know, from like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, LA time. All right, so this is probably gonna be a topic. What would I say? And then you got to do your research on whether it's Baker Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers, almost certainly Dallas Cowboys. And then, you know, if it's one of these retread topics like a LeBron and Dallas Cowboys, Patriots, you got to differentiate from what everybody else is saying, because those are the most popular topics and everybody's saying stuff. It's tough to cut through the noise sometimes. So that's when maybe you make a couple jokes. I made a joke about Kyle Kuzma that apparently killed, but Kuzma didn't like it. Kyle Kuzma is about as reliable as the Wi-Fi in my basement, and people apparently Kuzma didn't like it. But, for instance, like a lot of athletes watch that show and tweet about it. I'm not going to say their names, but the one positive was Nick Young, who I've never met, seemed to be a big fan and thought some of the stuff I was saying was funny. And I think if you can strike that happy blend of informative, funny, and quasi hot takey, you've hit that happy sweet spot where you can either please everybody or very much anger everybody. You don't want to be in the middle. Like you're in the middle, you're the Portland Trailblazers. You're good, you're gonna 45, 50 games, good, solid, but you ain't winning the chip. You'd rather just everybody hates you, which has a lot of upside, as working in this industry, or everybody loves you. And the reality is nobody's ever gonna love you. That's not happening. So polarizing generally works. And again, this isn't to say you need to manufacture a take. You just need to find and unearth something that nobody else is really saying. And I mean, this 76ers stuff, by the way, they're playing the Hawks tonight. I don't know when you're going to put this out before game 2. I'm telling you, if they lose this series, like the Ben Simmons fake trades are going to be so fun for the next 2 months, because that's where it's exciting. It's like, okay, they had the number 1 seed and they lost to the Hawks in the second round. You got to break them up. And the Damian Lillard stuff's fun. And again, a lot of people don't like it when you come up with fake trades. They're like, that's so lopsided. This team hates it. Like, I don't care. The mere fact you're engaging with me means that I have hit a chord somewhere with you, that it's not like, oh, he said that next. Because there are, Bryan, and I'm sure a lot of people out there who keep advancing, and you're like, trying to think of the last interesting take that guy's had. I got nothing, and it's not a knock. It's like, listen, there is a way to have a long career in this industry doing that, and that's fine. But I would rather, again, separate myself from the pack, be interesting, be authentic, be original, and hopefully that wins a day.
You talk about all those qualities, and no wonder you've had so much success, because you kept them in harmony. You're harmonizing all that. And with the work that you put in, no wonder you know what you're talking about, and you come prepared. And for any athlete that says they don't watch the content and they say, I don't care about that, that's such a lie. You know that, Jason, they all consume this stuff, and your word goes a long way with them. Jason McIntyre with FS1, Fox Sports Radio, and beyond. I'm Bryan Fenley. This was a lot of fun, Jason. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Bryan.